Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. This is the English translation of the Majlis of Hazrath Maulana Qamar Uzzaman Saheb Damat Barakatuhum, which took place on Tuesday, the 29th of Safar 1444, corresponding with the English date, 27th of September 2022. This Majlis took place at Mazahirul Ulum, Jadid, Saharanpur, UP, India. This Majlis took place after the Esha Salat. Hazrat Wala starts off this discourse by quoting the ayat of the Quran Majid, Alam nashrah laka sadrak. Thereafter, Hazrat Wala goes on to say that, beloved students, I am also from amongst this group of the Talaba. Hazrat Tanvi used to say himself, I am a Talib ilm. His entire life he said that. Allah Ta'ala gave Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam the order, وَقُلْ رَبِّ زِدْنِي عِلْمًا. Say, O my Rabb, increase me in knowledge. One alim was asked on one occasion that if you were to come to know that you only have a stipulated time and a lease of time left in your life before you pass away, how would you spend this portion or that last period of your life? He said, I would use it in the search of knowledge. I will busy myself and occupy myself in talabul ilm. So Allah Ta'ala commands His Nabi, who He had given Himself so much of knowledge. Then too, He tells His Nabi to ask for an increase in knowledge. So Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, despite having all the knowledge, then asks for Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala for more knowledge. O Allah, increase me in knowledge. Musa alayhi salatu wassalam said to the people, Ana a'lam, I am the most knowledgeable. But this was so displeasing to Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala that He let His beloved Nabi undertake a journey and then made him acknowledge that Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala possesses all ilm. You may have went through the waqia in the incident, and eventually right at the end, this bird comes onto the deck of the ship, and Khizr alayhi salatu wasalam tells Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, after seeing the bird taking some amount of water of the ocean into its beak, he says that our knowledge in comparison to the knowledge of Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala is like the water which is in the beak of the bird in comparison to all the water of the oceans. Allahu Akbar. So Hazrat Tanvi Rahmatullah Alayhi was a alim Rabbani. Look at the ilm and the knowledge that he possessed. Then too, he would always introduce himself and say that I am a talib ilm. From all of this we understand the great merit, the virtue and the status of knowledge. وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى مَا وَدَّعَكَ رَبُّكَ وَمَا قَلَى وَلَلْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ لَكَ مِنَ الْأُولَى وَلَسَوْفَ يُعْطِيكَ رَبُّكَ فَتَرْضَى أَلَمْ يَجِدْكَ يَتِيمًا فَآوَى. Did He not find you orphaned and grant you shelter? وَوَجَدَكَ ضَالًّا فَهَدَى. Did He not find you uninformed then and show you the way? Did Allah Ta'ala not find you uninformed and thereafter He gave you ilm, He gave you knowledge? Allahu Akbar. Allah Ta'ala takes the responsibility of seeing to the needs and the rizq of a talib ilm and a student, the one who is seeking a knowledge. Hazrat Shah Waliullah says, So وَوَجَدَكَ عَائِلًا فَأَغْنَى, did he not find you poor and then make you wealthy? Yani bimali Khadija, that is with the wealth of Khadija. Hazrat Shah Waliullah says that the silsila of like how Allah Ta'ala seen to the needs of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Allah Ta'ala will see to the needs of people in the silsila of ilm right until the day of Qiyamah. ذَلِكَ فَضْلُ اللَّهِ, this is the grace of Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala. يُؤْتِيهِ مَن يَشَاءُ, He gives it to whomsoever He wants. ذَلِكَ تَقْدِيرُ الْعَزِيزِ الْعَلِيمِ, and the amount of barakat that is given is unimaginable, that even those of such great financial muscle and capacity even remark and say that how do these people live? How are they so contented, and how do they move on with this amount? Okay, let's continue. Hazrat Shah Rafiuddin passes away. He was the illustrious son of Hazrat Shah Waliullah and the brother of Hazrat Shah Abdul Aziz. So Hazrat Shah Abdul Aziz says at the demise of his brother Sheikh or Shah Rafiuddin that his knowledge, the waves of his knowledge, the fuyuz and the barakat of it reached the corners of the world. But look at his impression at the demise of his beloved brother. He says, however, Allah Ta'ala's Zat is ghani, most independent when it comes to rizq, when it comes to ilm, and when it comes to maut. Allah Ta'ala's Zat is most independent. Allah Ta'ala takes that person's life away when it comes to maut. Because Allah is most independent, He does when He wants, how He wants, exactly what He wants. So the i'timad and the trust should be in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So sabr, a person exercises patience, that is also rizq. That is also rizq batini. Hazrat Hassan al-Basri is in the Jama Masjid of Damascus, and Ali radiallahu ta'ala an then makes his arrival. When he enters the masjid, he sees people in the different corners on their seats giving waz. And then he says to them that how is it? Who has given you people the permission to give waz? We also learn from this here that not any person could give waz and nasihat back in the day. And then he said, I will test you. If you pass, I will allow you to continue, and if not, you will have to leave. So he asks that what is the foundation of our deen, of this whole matter? And he answers, when he says that I will test you, Ali radiallahu ta'ala an possessed such deep knowledge, and Hassan al-Basri possessed such deep knowledge, and he was so confident about that. He said, go ahead, ask as you please. He asked, what is the foundation of this matter? And he says that it is taqwa, the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what is the destruction of this year? He said it is tama', putting your hopes and your desires in anyone else other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that greed, tama'. Hazrat Maulana Habibur Rahman Azmi used to say, as addressing the ulama, that at least when you're narrating and quoting hadith, leave alone the whole chain of narrators, at least quote the last link. Quote the last link before Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now Hazrat Haji Imdadullah rahimahullah, now this is our silsila. Sayyidina Hassan al-Basri, Ali radiallahu ta'ala an, it is the ilmi silsila. And Hazrat Haji Imdadullah, who came and sat at his feet? It was none other than the luminaries and the giants of knowledge in that time. Hazrat Tanvi, Hazrat Maulana Gangohi, Hazrat Maulana Qasim Saheb, Hazrat Maulana Muhammad Hussain Alahbadi. And they came and they started to drink from the fountain of Hazrat Haji Saheb. But what was it? It was that tremendous knowledge that he was given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The hadith states that if any person makes amal on the knowledge that he has, Allah will bless him with such knowledge that he knew not of before. Allahu Akbar. So, Hazrat Haji Imdadullah, how they had humbled themselves. He used to always ask regarding his furu'at, his masail. He used to ask his peer by his colleague, Sheikh Mohammad. These were the three giants and qutubs of Tanabawan, Sheikh al-Hadith, Sheikh Mohammad, and Hazrat Hafiz Zamin Sahab and Hazrat Haji Imdadullah. Nevertheless, as time went on and Maulana Rashid Ahmad took bayat at his hands, he said to him, Rashid Ahmad, from now on I will ask you my masail. Allahu Akbar. Look at their fana'iyat, look at their humility, and look at how much of self-effacement and annihilation of oneself, how they lowered themselves. Now, Hazrat Maulana Muhammad Qasim Sahab, he had such maharat and excellence in the kulliyat, in the rules and the fundamentals. And Hazrat Maulana Rashid Ahmad was a master when it came to the juziyat and the masail. I just quoted the other day, لا يكون العالم عالما حتى يكون فيه ثلاث خصال. An alim cannot be an alim in the true sense until or unless he is an embodiment of three salient features, qualities. Number one, لا يحتقرن من دونه. He never looks down upon the one who is beneath him, rather his students or anybody who has less than him. He encourages them, he promotes them, he lets them go forward. Not only that, وَلَا يَحْسُدَنَّ مَنْ فَوْقَهُ. He doesn't have hasad up for the one that is higher than him. He bows down in front of that person, his ustad, somebody who has more knowledge than him, so that that person's tawajjuh can be on him, he can achieve and he can go forward. Ilm in itself is an amal. Rather, it is the steps or something that will lead you towards amal, because if you have no ilm, how will you ever practice? Somebody asked Hazrat Maulana Qasim Sahab, listen, tell me, you go to Hazrat Haji Sahab, is he an alim? He just answered in these words. Of course, he was not an alim in the terminology, but how does he answer? He answers that he wasn't an alim, rather he was an alim gar. What alim are you actually talking about? He was an embodiment of knowledge. He was an alim par excellence with deep knowledge. Whoever has his earthen pot, his matli, his matka, linked to that of the ocean, can there be any shortage then of the water that will come there? Allahu Akbar. Hazrat Haji Sahab had his maslak. He always gave preference to poverty over wealth. And then somebody asks him on one occasion that, you saying this, but the hadith teaches us, al-yadul ulya khairum min yadi sufla, the giving hand. The higher hand, meaning the giving hand, is always better than the lower hand, the receiving end. He says, yes, absolutely. And this hadith is actually my maslak. Because a person who gives, the giving hand, the person who gives, whatever he gives, he's given 100 rupees, 100 rands, 100 dirhams, whatever it is. The fact of the matter is, he is going 100 towards the direction of poverty, and that is my maslak, the tarjih of faqr. And whoever is receiving, no matter how poor he is going that 100 rupees or 100 rands towards that of riches. Allahu Akbar. Now look at this. This was the knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed these great saintly people. Now how did they achieve all of this? In no other way except that they had humbled themselves completely and totally. Self-effacement and annihilation. Hazrat Sayyid Sulaiman Nadwi, he was Allama-e-Zaman. He was known for his knowledge. Then too, he comes and he wants spiritual excellence. And he comes and he bows down, wants to drink from the fountain of Hazrat Maulana Tanvi. And nevertheless, he stays, he achieves, he's leaving. And then he says, Hazrat, kuch nasihat farma dijiye, give me some advice. Hazrat Maulana Tanvi, look at this here. He said, Aap khud alim Rabbani hai, you are an alim, meaning he honored him. He kept baqi in its place, the man's maqam of knowledge. And then he goes on to give the nasihat. Allahu Akbar. He says that listen, what I have seen and heard from my buzrugs, I will tell you that जो जितना अपने को मिटाता है इतना वो बढ़ता है. The person, according to how much he humbles himself, that's how much he would progress. That left Hazrat Gangohi in tears, rather weeping, and his entire journey right back to Lucknow. That was the kayfiyat that overwhelmed him. And our Hazrat Maulana Muhammad Ahmad Saheb used to say, Jisne mitaya apna naam o nishan, haft iqleem ka bana sultan. The one who has lowered himself, humbled himself, annihilated himself, removed all traces and effects of himself, self-effacement. He has become the king of the world. How Hazrat Maulana Qasim Sahib humbled himself. How Hazrat Gangohi humbled himself. Hazrat Gangohi was sitting on one occasion and this person was next to him. Nevertheless, the letter that then came to him had such terrible words of abuse and vulgarity in it to the worst level. Nevertheless, you have these people always, he peeped, he seen the letter, he said, Hazrat, how is it that you are so tolerant about all of this? And then he goes and he says, open this bag up or open the cupboard. And then he opens those letters and he says, read what's written here. And you know how people praise these mashayikh? They say, Ghaus, Qutub al-Aqdab, Aqtab, Alim Rabbani, this, that and the other. So he says, listen, I'm not deserving of all those great titles. Neither am I deserving of this type of abuse. So, Hazrat Maulana Rashid Ahmad is so worthy of emulation in how he was so muttabi'a sunnat. Hazrat Maulana Muhammad Ahmad Sahib used to say to people that I am a Gangohi. This was no pride or arrogance or this or that or the other. It was just bayan haqiqat. That listen, muttabi'a sunnat. Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahib used to say that whatever I achieved from Hazrat Tanvi, I achieved. But listen, over and above that, I achieved and benefited tremendously from the maktubat, the letters of Hazrat Maulana Rashid Ahmad, Maktubat Rashidiyya and Maktubat Ma'sumiyya. Allahu Akbar. In one Malfuz, Hazrat Maulana Rashid Ahmad writes, answering the difficulty of his student complaining that, listen, I can't get my wazaif and awrad done. I'm waiting for a peace time, comfort time, when all my work would be done, and then I will sit and do that. He answers to that question saying that don't wait for that time. Rather, walking, running, doing your chores, sitting, standing, in all of that, carry out your wazaif. Why? Because your wazaif, even though at that time you may not have complete participation of the heart also, but most definitely the tongue is wet with the dhikr and the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, if Allah ta'ala then would most definitely make the tongue go to Jannah. Now tell me, after allowing the tongue to go to Jannah, will Allah Ta'ala allow the rest of the organs of the body to go to Jahannam? Allahu Akbar. It was like the mazamin of this nature that Hazrat Maulana Abdul Bari Nadwi and all these other great ulama at that time became fida of Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahib. So what was I saying? What was the ayat I quoted? Oh, yes, it was Alam nashrah laka sadrak. Ji, have we not opened, did we not expand your chest for you, O Rasul of Allah? Did we not expand your chest for you, yani bil ilmi wal hilm, by increasing your knowledge and granting you the ability to tolerate the harassment of the kuffar, ilm and hilm. Musa alayhi salatu wasalam makes dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as he leaves to go and do da'wat and tabligh, pass the message on to Fir'aun. At that time, what dua does he make? Realizing that the task was a great one, Musa alayhi salatu wasalam said, Rabbi shrah li sadri, O my Rabb, expand, broaden my chest, bil ilmi wal hilm, with knowledge. Without knowledge, what message will I give? Wal hilm, and with tolerance. I'm going to this great oppressor. I mean, of course, he's going to say this and that and the other, due to which I would have to have amazing amount of tolerance. But you can have all the knowledge and all the tolerance and all the mu'jizat and all the karamat. So long as Allah Ta'ala does not make your task easy for you, most definitely it would be difficulty. So ask Allah Ta'ala to ease in the matter. وَيَسِّرْ لِي أَمْرِي, make my task of da'wat and tabligh, propagation, easy. وَحْلُلْ عُقْدَةً مِّن لِسَانِي يَفْقَهُ قَوْلِي, and it may be so easy for you, your matter. However, people will not understand if you do not speak clearly and you do not have some amount of eloquence in speech. Therefore, O Allah, wahlul uqdatam min lisani, untie the knot on my tongue so that my unclear speech may be now become clear. In the heat of the moment, this may happen, I may be nervous, this, that and the other, so that they may understand my speech. Yafqahu qawli. So we are in the silsila, so that when people, how will people understand you? How will you be able to express ada uma fi zamir? How would you able to express your impression which is in your heart? Now let us make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allahumma inna nas'aluka ilman nafi'a ورزقا اللهم إنا نسألك علما نافعا وعملا متقبلا اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من علم لا ينفع وقلب لا يخشع ومن دعاء لا يستجاب لها ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم بحرمة سيد النبي الكريم صلى الله عليه وسلم.